Thank you very much. Welcome to today's brief. We couldn't broadcast ours on Monday for various issues and factors that were beyond me, but glad that we are back. And today we are discussing the rising cost of living and is worrying. Just this evening, I've got a statement from various civil society organizations. Among them include ActionAid, Alliance for Community Action, Bloggers of Zambia, Chapter 1 Foundation, Center for Trade, Policy and Development, Council of Christian Churches in Zambia, Transparency International, NGOCC, Zambia Council for Social Development. The statement has been signed by Linda Kasonde and Isaac Mwaipopo, Executive Directors of Chapter 1 Foundation and for Center for Trade, Policy and Development. What are their concerns? The rising cost of living is unaffordable for our people. If you look at the basic needs and nutrition basket for the whole of this year, it's been above 9,000 kwacha. This is totally unaffordable for our people. And the NGOs have formed expression to their concerns that something needs to be done. You can't ignore it. And but what has the leadership done? The leadership has been busy traveling across the globe. The president and his ministers have been traveling. The international travels, most of them have not been necessary. There were a few that are associated with the United Nations, Africa Union, or those related to the debt restructuring. Those could be said to have been relevant. But the bulk of the 50 trips the president has taken, most of them are not necessary. Just look at the trip that he has currently, where he's in Israel with a large entourage. Over 20 heads of states in Africa were in Russia, but the president chose to send a minister of foreign affairs to that meeting, and then he took a state visit to Israel. The president was very clear when he was in opposition that President Lungu's trips were not necessary, especially that the economy was bad, especially that the cost of living was bad. The price of fuel was expensive. The price of milling was expensive. Now you can imagine things are doubly worse. They are more worse than they were in 2021. Just look at the basic needs and nutrition basket. It would range around 6,700 and 7,000. Now it's stuck at 9,000 and above for a family of 5. Look at the price of fuel. Look at the price of milling. Milling costing above 300 kwacha. This was not feasible. It's 350, 400 kwacha, and it appears it's normal for our leadership. Look at the price of cooking oil. Look at the price of sugar. Look at the price of salt. The high cost of living has caused instability and mass demonstrations in Kenya and Nigeria. And the leaders of these civil society groupings are warning us that we may go the same way. We'll have protests. And look at government solution to all this crisis. First, they've chased street vendors, a matter that I think needed deep thought. You needed to have identified that the market spaces were available for all that to be displaced from the markets. You needed to have created parking spaces for people that want to use markets and want to go to the market. Because one of the reasons our people shop from the streets and from their cars is that there are no parking spaces at those markets and there is no security at those markets. So our people will not go to the markets. They prefer to buy on the street. Both the street vendors and ourselves are to blame for this cage. But Honorable Gary Nkombo thinks that this 30-year problem can be resolved at a go. It can be resolved with one magic wand. And you saw what happened in Kabwe when they tried to remove the street vendors yesterday. The vendors, joined by members of the public, rioted in Kabwe. We have a burning market in Chisokone, and it's an unfortunate matter. Every time a market burns, our people lose their wares, their goods, and even the trading spaces. And remember, our traders operate at a very small capital amount, very, very small. So any loss to their goods is almost irrecoverable. It takes them a long time to recover from the crisis. So that's what we are discussing today. The rising cost of living. What has been the solution? IMF. Government has pinned its hopes on the IMF and the $1.3 billion bailout. That $1.3 billion bailout has not come, and only about $370 million has come out of the $1.3 billion promised in December 2021. Even by the time it comes, it will have been no use because so much has passed under the current. This government has relied heavily on budget deficit. Just look at the supplementary they brought to Parliament. I don't even understand if there was need for the supplementary budget, because why are you seeking more money to expend more when you haven't even collected enough revenue even from your partners that are supporting your budget, but you want to keep on spending and spending. Inflation rate has broken the barrier of a single digit. It's now in excess of over 10%, and that's of worry. The foreign exchange market hasn't been stable, and this becomes very difficult for our importers and exporters because they can't plan. Remember, we are a landlocked country, and our economy is entirely import-oriented. We manufacture very little goods and services to do import substitution, and therefore stability in the foreign exchange market is key for our country than any other. They've pinned their second hopes on foreign investment, but foreign investment is not reliable. Look at First Quantum, who promised the largest investment in the mining sector with their $1.3 billion. The bulk of it has been generated locally from VAT refund. So it's not even money they are bringing in, and then they are going to shed staff. You saw the announcement that they made, and they are doing high mechanization of the mine. So the bulk of the money will come locally from our own treasury, from our own Zambia Revenue Authority to invest in that $1.3 billion. So when you pin your hopes on foreign investment, that's not your solution. It's an investor's solution, because they can make any decision, as we've seen in First Quantum, where it has proposed shedding of jobs, and the bulk of the investment is coming from VAT returns. The issue of KCM and Mopani, we have the embarrassment of the Minister of Mines, who said it's a matter of days, we've resolved this matter, and by 31st July I'll make the announcement. Came 31st July, he just had to tell lies, more lies upon lies. And the issue of KCM and Mopani has been a matter of discussion that we are resolving it soon since 2021. The patience of our people has been stretched to the thinnest, endurance. And the minister, like it is normal to tell a lie, just came and said, look, I think we are not ready. We'll keep on giving you updates. And what is their solution to KCM and Mopani? Again, the same issues. The Mopani and especially Vedanta are relying on VAT returns as part of the payments they wish to make, and they've other claims where they want government to take over the huge bill they left. They left a debt of $1.5 billion on KCM, but they want government to assume some of those debts, and it's not good for our country. That Mopani and KCM resolution will still not benefit our country. Just like the debt reschedule, we had appealed to the president. Mr. President, go to China. He has never been to China. And what did China give us over the part debt reschedule? Is that they just rescheduled the debt. If probably the president had gone to China, there's going to be an opportunity to cancel that debt. We're probably going to achieve total debt forgiveness. But what has happened is that the debt has been rescheduled to 12 years to 20 years. You and I will pay it, all our children will pay it. So there's no solution there. And remember, there are management fees and interest that still have to be paid during the entire time. So the debt service hasn't really been suspended. And we are yet to resolve the debt crisis that is with Eurobond, commercial creditors, the one with international financing institutions like IMF, World Bank, Africa Development Bank is not going away. They don't write off debt. They don't. So that debt still stands, and we still have to service the debt. And other commercial debtors that our creditors that are on our books. So you can see, I was going through the catalog, that the situation remains grim now or in the future, because the solutions are provided for a deep-seated economic crisis are not solutions at all. They are not domestic, they are foreign-oriented, and they don't depend on our calendar. You have to have good gesture from the IMF, you have to have good gesture from everyone else, and from investors other than ourselves. The trips by the president, he's been chasing the wind. He's chasing the wind. He should have stuck to important trips. About 50 trips in a period of 2 years is too many trips. There are some he went to expose, totally unnecessary. There were many that could have been attended by ambassadors and permanent secretary, and the president went there. And then there are key ones that he should attend, like the SADC meeting in Windhoek. There he sends an ambassador. There are key ones like the one in Russia that occurred last week. He sends a minister. The ones that he can forgo, they are the ones he chooses to pick. There has been no priority when it comes to the international trips. And international trips in the face of a bad economy just doesn't augur very well. Your prioritization is poor. You need to save costs. Presidential trips are not cheap. They are extremely, extremely, extremely expensive. I've handled several, and I know what I'm talking about. Whether you have a prudent president or not, international trips are very expensive. We still have a huge local debt, and this is also shows lack of money in the economy, because so many contractors, suppliers, and those that provide goods and services to our government are not paid. While we pay attention to the foreign debt, we've paid very little attention to local debt. In fact, we are extending it that we pay it in a period of 5 years. That is detrimental to our people. High unemployment rate, especially among young people, remains critically high. So we have a bad economy. The solutions of IMF bailout and debt restructuring are not helping. Suspending of projects and trying to restructure our economy by, trying to massage issues of inflation rate have not helped at all. And then our economic growth projections, look at the 3-year midterm framework of expenditure. Our ambition to grow our economy is very little. It can't change anything. 3 to 4% will not change anything. Countries that have changed the wealth of their nations and the livelihood of their people grow at above 10% consistently for minimum period of 15 to 20 years. We've been growing at 2-3%. That will not change anything. No matter how good ministers of finance put it, that can change our lives of 4%. Very, very little. You need an economic growth of in excess of 10%. Mielie meal, very expensive for our people. We are supposed to be an agricultural basket for the region and for Africa. We failed to capitalize that, and now we've been told that FISIP will actually be dropped, that it will be turned to comprehensive agriculture support program, something that will win off most of our small-scale farmers. They'll be on it for a minimum of 2 to 3 years, and then they're weaned off. They'll be given loans, something that will not work. FISIP has worked. We became a producer of minimum 3 million tons of maize because of the FISIP program, because it was jumped up from a community development issue, an issue of poverty alleviation, to a productive program where now you took from 500,000 small-scale farmers to 1.1 million small-scale farmers, and we increased their number of bags that were given from 4 to 6, and we're consistent at that. And just look at the maize production from 2015 to date. Despite the sometimes droughts, dry areas, and despite the difficulties of climate change, we consistently produced enough maize to store, have adequate national reserve, and export. This government for the last 2 years has failed on that. So let's play some videos. We'll start with the presidential trip. The president is in Israel for a state visit, and then the riots in Kabwe. Then we come back to discuss. The number to call is 0773 783 785. It must be on the side there. You can call it on WhatsApp or you call directly. We are ready for you. Let's play the videos.
A toast of brotherhood and continued friendship between Zambia and Israel is what Israeli President Isaac Herzog proposed during a state banquet held in honor of President Hakainde Hichilema and his delegation. It was at this event where President Herzog announced intentions of increasing trade and business between his country and Zambia.
Zambia is a remarkable nation with stunning physical landscape, beautiful human landscape, as we heard from First Lady and the President. The eagerness to develop, grow, and learn makes cooperation between our nations so natural. And of course, it's about time that we increase the trade and business between Israel and Zambia, as Zambia is becoming the major hub of food security for entire Africa. Our recent deepening collaboration epitomizes the people-to-people creative connections that are driving innovation and making it a better world. There is so much that can become possible when we join hands in goodwill to improve life on Earth together.
President Herzog said President Hichilema's leadership has set him among the best performing presidents in the world.
I heard from the White House, are you meeting HH? He's the greatest guy around, and indeed he is.
President Hichilema, on the other hand, used the occasion to woo Israeli investors to consider investing in Zambia, especially in the agriculture sector.
Investment, relationships, mutual benefit for all of it. And for us now, we look at the size of this country, we've done so much. But there's land somewhere, there's space somewhere where you can continue expanding, given your ingenuity of your people, technology, of course, the network of capital that you have across the world. So we'd like to really invite the business community that is here, that our country is once again open for business. Come and do business with us, as the Sussmans did.
After all was said and done, it was time for the president to leave in readiness for more engagements the following day. President Hichilema was accompanied by First Lady Mutinta Hichilema.
Boindero de shem ftia paine na papa tetu ba kula sapa. Olo bato ba ida moto kaka. Tafira shide na bwino. Shit, sokone market. Yapia, mwe bantu yapia, mapranzi ya bantu yaona ikaye.
Mwapa mwanapaka bwetu ale mnateka nyonyo kutamfya mavendors mwana ni fyambo kuchitika na mashop so bala tampo kutoba so The situation is not good here in Kabwe. Have you seen? Manpower yaba polisi inaichepa.
The truth remains that HH must go. He must step down. This is not because we don't love him. This is for the sake of millions of Zambians, especially the poor. He must step down. We must tell ourselves the truth that the person we thought we are campaigning for is not the person that took over power. We gave power to somebody that is antisocial. He doesn't like people, especially the poor, the uneducated, and the blacks. The president is more free and comfortable around the whites than the blacks. The president feels safe around the rich, the educated, than the poor and the people on the street. During campaign, I remember several times that I forced him. I feel pity for people that think that I don't speak to the president, or people that think that I don't communicate to the president. The time of evidence is coming, and I will show you everything. I remember during campaign, I was the one that was pushing him to go out. Go to the field and fight from the field. Go to the street and meet people on the street. I see a one who was doing it. And the president told me to say, look, when I go to the street, they will arrest me. I told him, go there. Let them arrest you. The more they arrest you, the more we are getting vote of sympathy. When he go to the street, he sees the result and he come back to me and say, look, people are happy because I was on the street. We forced him to be a social person. Personally, myself as Siawan, I forced him to be a social person. Pushing him to go in the compounds, go and meet people. I know that the president is a person that is not free among the blacks or among the poor. But we needed it because we are campaigning. We needed it, and that was forcing him to do that. HH is not loved by the people. Let us be clear with this. President HH is not people's favorite. We made him people's favorite. We painted Edgar Lungu black. We made sure that Edgar Lungu becomes a demon, that people, while voting, we are thinking that if they voted Edgar Lungu in, by now Zambia would have been gone. We put those fears on people.
Mines Minister Paul Kabuswe says the race to have Mopani and Konkola copper mines become fully functional has not come to an end, as government is in the process of concluding the negotiations and will be making an announcement soon. Mr. Kabuswe, who addressed the media Wednesday morning, says the negotiations delayed to conclude because legal matters popped up during the negotiation process, but says the matter has been resolved and that negotiations will be concluded sooner than anticipated.
But believe you me, we are closer to closure than you think. And as the President said, certain legal issues cropped up which disturbed our timelines. There are certain things in the legal fraternity which you cannot block but allow time to pass. And we are to bite the bullet and allow time to pass and go beyond the first quarter. I want to assure the people of Zambia and the people of the Copper Belt.
Meanwhile, the minister has also revealed that the new mining policy has been released and that the government is in the process of setting up a minerals commission that will be monitoring mining activities in the country.
To be implemented. Why am I emphasizing the aspect of time? Because a lot of people have been saying, no, this government is just about rhetoric. They just talk. I don't know whether doing a policy is talking. Doing a policy is action. So we acted, we did a policy. From the policy, now we said we are implementing what the policy is saying. And number one priority, like I said, is the Minerals Commission, which we have done now.
Among other issues, the minister says government is going full throat in the mineral exploration and says 100 cooperatives have so far been formed and will be assisted with equipment for the use in mining explorations.
We are going full throttle exploration and mapping of this country, and these discussions are seriously underway. It requires time and it requires us to do the right thing. Cooperatives are in place. The Ministry of Mines is already procuring gold detectors and other equipment for these cooperatives to empower them. So you can see that we have a very clear path where we are going.
And when asked why the mining sector is not fully paying taxes to the Zambia Revenue Authority despite being given tax holidays, the minister had this to say.
I must know that in the month of June, the Pokabuswe mining company mined 50 tons. 50 tons will attract a particular level of tax or mineral royalty. So, for them to know, they will work hand in hand now with the regulator who will tell them.
Prudence Jota, reporting for Camry TV News.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've played various videos from the president's trip to Israel, to the Minister of Mines, with his promise that will have resolved the issue of KCM. I note that the president was in Israel and he met Isaac Herzog. Isaac Herzog is the 11th president of Israel. His father was also the president of Israel. He was the 6th president, General Chaim Herzog. For guys in communication, they probably know Chaim Herzog because he gave one of the best speeches. There's that collection of the best speeches in the world. So Isaac Herzog's father, General Chaim Herzog, was ambassador to the UN, and he gave a speech on November 10th to the United Nations because it was a historical resolution that was done that Zionism is racism, and the UN voted unanimously for that resolution declaring that Zionism, like apartheid, was racism. And General Chaim Herzog, then gave that inspirational speech on behalf of the Jewish people in the world and on behalf of Israel. You should go to it. Just Google Chaim Herzog, the father to Ishak Herzog, Isaac, in Jewish is Isaac. So let's come back to the issue. Like I've stated, most of the presidential trips have been totally unnecessary. The president has taken about 2 trips literally a year. A month. 2 international trips a month, and this is so much that they've accumulated to around 50. Probably is one of the most traveled presidents among all the 7 presidents. We are yet to tabulate, but President Hakainde Hichilema is proving to be one of the most traveled presidents. Even Keke, who was an international citizen who has repeatedly resolving issues worldwide, didn't travel as much as President Hakainde Hichilema is traveling. The issues with the trips is most of them have not been relevant, other than the ones to the UN. He has shunned critical ones like SADC meetings or even the one in Russia. He chooses to take certain trips just for expos, and others, we are yet to know the details of this state trip to Israel. But at the heart of all this is the price of mealie meal, the high cost of living that remains. Oh, the phones are buzzing. Let me take my first call. Eugene.
Good evening.
Eugene, I unblocked you, but administrator unblocked you from my page. I hope you can now interact with me.
Yes.
Make your contributions, Eugene.
Yes, I have a few, but the first one is just one amongst the videos that you played.
Yeah.
The one that you have played for Siawano, I think, okay, just to be honest, you are the presidential candidate. I don't think if these other medias like PF Media, they post that, yeah, but if it comes from you, doesn't augur well on that one.
Eugene,
because
before you go
my
to other
point. Let me finish.
Oh, I thought I could answer you just on that one.
Yes.
Yeah, Eugene, Siawan was a very fundamental factor to the youth vote in 2021. He would pull in one night, sometimes up to 100,000 people would watch him. To see Siawan just 2 years on demand for the immediate resignation of the president, I thought that was fundamental. It's newsworthy in my view.
No. It's like you're calling for a foreigner to meddle into your internal affairs. No, it shouldn't work like that. Zambia is for Zambians. If no matter what Siawan did, yes, just like we say, you always remind us to say PF was, yes, PF did commit certain issues, but it doesn't guarantee UPN to do the same. Isn't it not what you say?
Yes, exactly.
That's what you say.
Yeah.
So, Siawan is a foreigner. In Nigeria, they have their own issues. I'm sure you saw that people are protesting in Nigeria. So Zambia, yes, we can differ as Zambians. Zambia is our country. We can differ with each other,
okay,
but we shouldn't allow a foreigner.
Council.
Yes.
For me, that was always my position. But young people didn't listen.
Okay.
They would rather listen to Siawan.
No. But okay, if someone else posts, not you exactly. If someone else posts on other pages, but you're a presidential candidate.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Because even HH, yes. But my other issues I've got, I wanted to comment on is on the issues of street vending. If at all we can create a better system for that, it will help us, because at the end of the day, you politicians, you talk about employment creation, but if you try to break it down, what really are you talking about when you say employment creation? Where is that employment? How can we create that? You break it down to a simple man. So things to do with the street vending, if we move people into the market, you find that that's a bigger machine which can help us which can lead to so many youth to get employed in the country, provided we know how to utilize our resources as a country. Because the other challenge that we have is that councils, when they collect money, you find that they misuse. But if we can have a proper system whereby money raised from the marketeers is put to good use, that can help to bring in more youth to get employed. Because those are the things that we need to, things like if we get into farming, those are the areas more employment can be created. Because normally we just say no employment creation, but we are forgetting that we don't have proper systems in our country which can result into employment creation. So that area, if we're supported, if everyone supports that area, you find that so many things can be achieved. Today, we talk about the Lusaka City Council not being paid for 2 or 3 months. But money is there. How come cadres are able to raise good money from the marketeers? Or how come City Council can fail to do that? If cadres are able to organize themselves, they raise money, they're able to buy houses, buy cars and all that. Why should the council fail to raise good money from the marketeers? So it's possible. It's just about if money goes to government, we misuse. We shouldn't have that kind of thing. We can have good money which can be channeled to things that to be able to create employment for citizens. Then one last one. Just okay. One last one. The money that we are receiving from IMF is being sent in bits and pieces. Not that it will be sent at a go. I'm sure you know. After they rate us, then that's when they give us a portion. Not that it will be sent at a go. So that money will not come at a go. It will be coming in bits and pieces. It will be for 3 years. I'm sure you know, Mr. Mam.
I'll answer you, Eugene. Thank you very much. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yes, good evening. My name is Kenneth.
Yes, Kenneth.
I'm calling you from within Lusaka.
Yes, make your contributions, Kenneth.
Yes, my contribution is on the price of mealie meal.
Yes.
I've heard you have talked much about the price of mealie meal. Now, my contribution is the price of mealie meal in Zambia has never been cheap. From the time of your need up to date. If you look at it from the real-term situation, it's a technical term which I use by you, real term. In a real term, the price of mealie meal has been expensive. No one can say today the price of mealie meal, because it's running at this much, it's expensive. No one can say that. Unless experts who can deflate...
That's what the entire country is saying.
Experts who can deflate the situation and see the real price. That's point number one. Point number two, the mealie meal to reach the present situation, if you find it in the shop, it is attached with costs. There are a lot of costs attached to a bag of mealie meal. So in order for the bag of mealie meal to sell, all costs must be reached. Now let's come to why the price of mealie meal is expensive. It's too much, but I'm just going through quickly. The price of mealie meal, the reason why it's expensive is the supply of mealie meal, which is less compared to the demand. Those are fundamentals of economics. Now, the president wants to tackle that problem, to increase supply and also to reduce all the cost of producing a mealie meal in the value chain. Now, what it is in order for the supply to go up, that's why you find the price of maize should be attractive. When the price of maize is attractive, a lot of people go into the farming sector. And when people go into the farming sector, increase production, supply goes up. Automatically, you see the stability in the price of maize. That's my contribution. It's long. I can take hours to explain everything, but let me just give those points. Thank you very much.
Kenneth from Lusaka says the price of mealie meal has always been expensive, and he says in real terms the price hasn't totally changed. Of course, the entire country disagrees with him. The price of mealie meal is at its highest. Inflation rate is quite low. It's been at 9%. Now it's at 10%. Of course, the input cost of mealie meal of maize at 280 kwacha is the biggest contributing factor. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello.
Your name and where you are calling us from.
This is Blessings from Kabwe.
Yes, Mr. Blessings from Kabwe.
Yes. I just wanted also to add my voice over the same issues which are biting here in Zambia. Yes. Ambassador Mwamba, I just want to submit this evening because what is happening here in Zambia, I think I'm not with the idea. Especially, let us look at the first issue, which is street vending. Look at the way this economy is biting. We are told each and every time to say, no, there are markets, there are this and that. But what I think is we are not doing the right thing for the Zambians. You know, being leaders, we just have to take an holistic approach towards everything we are doing. Let us not think always about ourselves, but we should always think also for the people we are ruling. Look at even the way people are suffering here in Zambia. If we have opposition leaders like you, what are you doing towards this going on trend, where when someone wakes up can come and they put a lot of implementations which they know that they are not sustainable. Because look at the bag of mini meal, the way it is. And then you are talking about, no, we are sending the street vendors into communities, we are sending these street vendors to go and trade, and so that the council, they can make the revenue. I'm asking this question to say, why was it that the councils were getting money while the street vending was going on? Is it that it was not illegal by then? That is the question we have to answer. Because councils were getting even monies for the past 2 years, which the UPND said they have reduced capitalism. And they didn't even build any market in any way. Here in Kabwe, I can assure you to say people are suffering. And even the markets and the bus stations which they have taken the people in, they are not sustainable. They don't have toilets, they don't have anything. But you find they will make these policies just to choke a poor Zambian who is here suffering. So I think, as you as politicians, Mr. Emmanuel Mamba, let you put up good policies for us, the local people who are suffering. Because I think it has gone on like a trend where you politicians, you use us to put you there, but you will not have us at heart. I see a lot of leaders here in Zambia who don't have even the leadership at heart, only to enrich themselves. Look at even when we hear from Mr. Even Galinkombo himself, he's given free fuel, free everything. But a poor Zambian who is suffering, he's not looked at. What they want is when they go to Rwanda, where they have seen how Rwanda, one, economically they are stable, and it is clean and everything. But here when you come to Zambia, you want to compare with other countries, which I feel it is unsustainable. And I feel we have to do more on this issue. Let us not just sit down and watch people being disgraced, people being oppressed, people being put to abject poverty. But as we are watching, especially you as opposition, let you also go and represent us, especially your party, which is PF. Let it go and represent the people, especially that you are branding a pro party, at a pro shiny poor party, what you're calling it yourself. But let you also continue talking for the people, especially putting important things.
Blessings.
On board. Thank you very much.
I think you've made your point. Thank you very much. Yeah. So. Eugene, a friend of mine now, on social media says I shouldn't have played CR1 video, but for me, CR1 video was very significant. He played a key role for the benefit of the UPND. And 2 years later, he called for the resignation of the president. And now the UPND are saying we shouldn't entertain CR1. Yet they entertained him, and they allowed Zambians to hear his voice. So what has changed? Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Hey, Mr. Nyerere, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Make your contribution, my brother.
Okay, thank you. Just to follow on from the comment that the previous caller just made with regards to Rwanda and the comparisons that people often make with regards to using Rwanda as an example, whether in economic metrics or cleanliness and so on and so forth. I think we need to be realistic and educate ourselves. When you compare country to country on any metrics, we are by far a better and more robust economy than Rwanda is. And the mere fact that a majority of the Rwandan citizens are exiting their country and coming to Zambia should be an example of the fact that Zambia is a more attractive destination. There are far less Zambians going to Rwanda than there are Rwandese coming here. So on that one, I think we need to be more proud of ourselves. With regard to the cost of living and in particular focusing on minimum prices, Mr. President, you've been rather consistent in your posts and in your comments with regards to botched FISIP cycles of this administration. The past two FISIP cycles, the fact that there was a delay in feed delivery, the fact that inputs were not given in time for farmers to be able to farm and farm effectively. And as you've consistently pointed out, this is against a backdrop of preceding years of increasing bumper harvest. Empirical evidence showing that our own very local farmers had made us food secure. That has been killed. So, and the fact of the matter is that that has been killed because of really, for lack of a better word, incompetence in that area of implementation. Going forward, and with these announcements that were made by the Honorable Minister of Agriculture to say that FISIP was going to be replaced and they're going to give a minimum amount of farmers loans to farm, I fear for this country. I fear that our strategic staple food will go to levels that are quite frankly quite scary. And please, as our politicians and as our voice out there, continue to emphasize and continue to highlight strongly the fact that when something is if it's not broken, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. FISIP was working, it was efficient, and please let no one derail you from that, emphasizing that fact, because I think a return to such agricultural practices and policies is what is going to have a return to consistent stability in prices of staple foods. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gautama. Yeah, I was answering Eugene, and Eugene, the issue of CR1, I think I've covered it, but the issue of street vendors, I think required, this is a 30-year problem. You can't resolve it in one night, overnight. And it had become so entrenched that nearly everyone left markets. But there's a responsibility by you and me, and there's a responsibility by municipalities that they need to create an environment for us, you and me, to go to the markets and not shop from the streets. Good evening. Your name and where you're calling us from? Very well, my brother. What's your name and where you are calling us from?
Matthews.
Yes, Matthews. How are you?
Fine. I don't know if I'm fine. Let me not say fine.
Oh, nishi ashupa muntu wande.
I will imitate, is it Washimpundu, the old man prior to the election, who said tule chula, taweta mule chula. Aweta mule chula, imweni mumkesa abana wesest. And now to Simon, I think he was a prophet. I think everyone remembers that day when that call was made.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of the people who are calling are just complaining, and I should also add on my complaint. I don't know. I don't have much to say today, but it's just so much a sad story. It's like every time politics. I think last time I called Nadimi Puisheko, you've been almost like next to the president. you've been almost with all the presidents we've had in the country. What is really the problem that we cannot change the status quo of our Zambians? What is the solution that we need to put forward for us to see that people at least live a decent life? I'm just coming from another platform, on the South African platform, where we are discussing about the One Africa unity and the like. It was actually hosted by one senior person from the EFF. What should we do in order to come out of this? Because it's just too much. It's just too much of complaining, government in, government out, government in, government out. So if I was to ask, Honorable, what are we looking at if you were to be voted in power? What is it that you would do different? Because now, this is the reason why I can say we have people in Zambia. You can imagine, out of 20 million, actually, me, I say we are even more than that.
Yeah, we are 20.4.
Well, we can even be 25. I think we have not counted properly. Out of 20 million, we have people who vote at 5-7 million. There must be a serious problem why that is so. And I'm sure the next election will even reduce, because people are now fed up. They are not seeing change that they think if we vote, this thing will happen. What is it that we are not doing right to our people? I've just read the pronouncement which has been done in Israel to say Israel, when coming to Zambia, they are no longer requested to pay for visa. And I'm a very small stakeholder in Zambia. I've never been given a waiver on tax. Right now, I'm pushing for a case with a foreigner who actually conned me into getting them a visa on a pretext that we are coming to work together in Zambia. The moment he reached the airport, he started dodging. And we have never had the privilege to come up with a law in Zambia to protect our own citizens. I tried to sit him down and discuss this as brothers, and I was chased like I'm in a foreign country. You know, you pursue this with PACRA, you pursue this with all these entities that are put in place to look into these investors and the like. They are all saying we don't have a law that hinders a person to do this and that. What a country.
Yeah.
What a country.
Matthew, no, thank you very much. I'll answer to some of the issues that you've raised.
Thank you, Honorable, but you still owe me.
Yeah.
And let me just conclude by that.
Yes.
You know, as leaders, we need to be so accommodative to our people. I've seen a lot of UPND guys crying. Now I'm thinking, if I vote my Honorable into office, for 8 months he's not seeing me, how is he going to see me when he's in office?
Yeah.
We'll talk.
Okay, thank you. Let me just, I didn't have my numbers, you know what happened to me. But let me send you my number that I'm using just now before I forget.
Please.
Okay, so Matthew, reach me on this number. Matthew has raised fundamental issues. He says, I've been close to power and to presidents, and what is wrong with our country? Matthew, I would summarize in this way. Number one, we have a mindset problem. We think foreigners will resolve the crisis of this country. We think that boys that went to Harvard from Washington with the IMF will come and resolve our problems. We do not have homegrown solutions. Even the so-called homegrown solutions, if you look at them, whether it relates to our national development plans, or our medium-term plans or our national budget, and you call them homegrown. These are frameworks that have already pre-designed. They can't change this country. They can't help develop this country. Greed by our leaders. I'm always surprised by the greed of our leaders. I've seen colleagues, you imagine how they get excited with the big cars and the air-conditioned offices and quickly steep themselves into issues of corruption. Greed and corruption is our second problem that we have to resolve at the heart of running our government. And you've seen that this creeps up on every new government. They quickly become like the old guys. The role of multinationals. You Zambians vote, but who makes your policies? It's multinationals. It's huge corporations. They determine your tax policy. I've publicly stated that if I had the privilege to be head of state of this country, there's one person I've vowed I'd never employ or give a job, Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane. And I'll give reasons. Ngandu Magande was our Minister of Finance in between 2004 to 2008. He looked at our mineral resources. He looked at the price of copper. And he said, we can get some from this resource. And he introduced what is called windfall tax. And he abolished the the mining agreements that were designed and signed. And they were 20 years. He ignored them and implemented the windfall tax. In 2008, the windfall tax gave us $500 million from nowhere. $500 million. This is $500 million by one stroke of a pen and the mindset of an effective leader. Mwanawasa dies. We have a new leader in President Rupia Banda. He picks the gentleman that was at State House as a Special Assistant for Economics, who was Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane, with a distinguished record in public service. He puts him as Minister of Finance. His first act is to abolish the windfall tax, a tax that was earning this country $500 million. Fast forward to 2021, you've had ministers of finance under PF, and the mining sector is earning us $1.1 billion. This gentleman, Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane, comes. He abolishes this tax. Our mineral royalty tax was non-deductible. Whether the mines went into production or not, they were required to pay that mineral royalty tax. And you must understand when you make it non-deductible. It's like rent in your house. Bayama na unamia kunstu na utamwile kunstu wa landlord tabaka fiu mfwe ati tamubomba tamfile mwalipila rent. That's how our mineral resources are. We put up that tax. When this gentleman called Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane became Minister of Finance, that's the first tax he attacked and gave incentives to the mines. So, Matthew, answering to you, it's not white people that will make these policies. It's the people you vote, the people you call leaders, who will undermine you. It's the people you call your leaders who will promote and pursue interest of others other than the people of Zambia. And I've just demonstrated. You can call us on 0773 783 785. There was another call from Kenneth from Lusaka. He kept on insisting that milling has always been expensive. No, but Kenneth, whether it's real terms, whatever economics you are using, I don't understand it. You are saying it's a market issue. Yes, it's a market issue. But this is a staple food, and government must devise and define policies that ensure that the staple food is cheap. You have various instruments before your hand. It's not everything that you surrender to market factors. Because what will happen is you're going to have food riots and they'll chase you out of State House. What will you achieve? What will you have achieved with your market trends? There are things like oil, like food, that governments across the world intervene. Look at, for example, the farming sector in Europe and in America. Governments would rather, because of huge production of dairy produce milk, they produce a lot of milk. And if there is a suppressed market, if the milk is so much, governments buy that milk. They would rather throw it in the sea than make a farmer lose. There are certain things you have to do to ensure that you save the interest of your farmers, you save the interest of your people. Currently, milling meal is unaffordable at the current rate. It doesn't matter what magic, what economic terms you will use. It's unaffordable for our people. The economy is bad. There's no money in the economy. Your government hasn't paid contractors and suppliers. There's just literally no money in the economy. The salaries are extremely low. Look at the increments that have been done. 10%, 12%. They're not even above inflation rate. How much do you need? The JCTR has given you an idea. If you have a family, you need in excess of 9,000 kwacha just on food alone before you pay your rent. Before you do anything else, you need 9,000 kwacha on your side to afford food in Lusaka. How many people get 9,000 kwacha? How much do our people get? So, it doesn't matter how you justify the high cost of living. It doesn't work because our people do not have food on the table. Then you implement measures like removal of street vendors without alternatives. This is a 30-year problem. You think you can resolve it by sending the police in town and chasing our vendors? No. All of us agree that our city is dirty. All of us agree that our city needs to be cleaned. But you can phase a program so that it has minimal impact on the livelihood of our people, that our people can have alternatives. You and me who fail to go to the markets can have that capacity to go to the markets. There are certain things that the council needs. You are talking about salaries for our workers in municipalities. Yes, they need to, but again, that needs deep thoughts. It's just not money from bus stops and markets. There are ventures that we have to introduce for our councils and municipalities. In the past, they had wealth. They had the houses, for example, Lusaka, Kitwendola, Livingston. They had a huge pool of houses, and they could, from rentals from such houses, they could then meet their obligation and provide services. When we took away some of those issues, how do we expect the council to survive? Just to sell land and sell plots? No. Or just rely on markets and bus stops? Again, markets that we don't make them work very well and bus stops that don't work very well. We've allowed the invasion of cadres. There are many things we need to do. So the numbers to call is 0773 783 785. Our President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND, 2 years on, have been very, very lucky. They've received very little criticism. There are few of us that have been criticizing this government, that have been bringing to the forth the mistakes, the errors of this government. But many NGOs have been quiet, not until now, looking at the 10 NGOs that went public today and have condemned the rise in cost of living. My brother, good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Julius Lusaka.
Julius from Lusaka. Please make your contribution.
Kambako paunga.
Kambanko Niyama.
Unga ambassador tunga chiba. Tunga fertilizer pa 1,400. Unga suza kachipapo. Suza chipabwani because ubula 280. Unga transport ya mwenda wa ndungula milisi. Unga diesel. Unga malazi. Suza chipabwani. Unga kuchipa unless fertilizer ya chipa ndiyo unga pamene unga chipa. Fertilizer ya chipa unga zadula bwani. Sasa ungazi unga fertilizer pa 1.4 unga sunga chipa sapya. Uzambo enda chipa mwamba so chatu. So kulibe unga kutuka chipa fertilizer finika ya chipa ndiyo vitu unga uchipe. Rezofuna funsa kita maybe munachita find out ija nganize na kamba ya town center kuliwa Mbeya.
I'll come inbox. Let me look at your number. I'll come inbox. The mayor was looking at that issue, why they want to be charging you. That's clearly cadres that want to be getting a separate fee from the amount that you contribute.
Okay. Okay.
Zikomo Julius.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Hello?
Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Yeah, hello. Hello, we can hear you, yes?
Yes, this is Andrew calling in from Undola.
Yes, Mr. Andrew from Undola. Oh, what's happening?
Hello?
Yes, Andrew, please go ahead.
Yes, well, the rising cost of living. First of all, let us analyze the economic position of Zambians. Us as Zambians, we are not economic contenders. We do not participate in the big economic transactions in our country. If you look at the big companies, who owns them? Most of these companies, they are partially owned by foreigners. If you look at these big manufacturing companies, even the way they do their businesses, you find that the same big company is manufacturing, it's distributing, it's doing its wholesaling, it's doing its retailing. Now, the space in which Zambians are doing their, it's a very small space. Nikala Utuntemba business, Honorable Ambassador, whereby when you find that when these commodity prices, when there is a slight movement in the commodity price, the hit is very big. Okay, Zambians are affected at a very huge way. Just a slight increase of a 50 kwacha, that affects the budget of the ordinary Zambian in a very big way. You find that a company comes, buys the land, sets up the factory, and gets all the chunk. Let's have a policy whereby if a company comes, let the land be owned by Zambians. Okay? Let the shareholding be owned by Zambians in that particular vicinity. So that some of these things Zambians can be absorbing these economic shocks, Ambassador. Ambassador, some of us were trying to go there, getting opportunities. You find when you go to this company, the human resource is a foreigner. When you go to this company, the human resource is a foreigner. But how do you, then how do you, make a change to a gap? If we come to our food production, we have been practicing this monocrop for the past 30, 40 years. It's been maize, and maize. They were not doing sorghum at a serious level, millet, yam. All these are opportunities. There is a value in these other foods. Should we wait for Rwandans to come and teach us how to farm? Should we wait for Sudanese, Egyptians, or perhaps Israelis to come and teach us how to till our lands? Okay? That's why even the last time I called you on this program, I said the price of millet meal, Ambassador, I doubt if it will come down because these farmers, since they increased the price of the bag of 50 kg to 280, I doubt if they will agree to say, no, let's go back to 190, 180. That will also have another counter negative effects. So these huge prices, which we are seeing now of mealie meal, cooking oil, the bare necessities, we are here to see them for quite some time. And the biggest tragedy, Ambassador, is with our children, our unborn children, and the children below the age of 2 who are suffering from stunting because of a lack of a proper nutritional diet for these children. Honestly, Ambassador, can you explain, have a proper growth, brain development, So that's where the tragedy is with our children. For the adults, you suffer with hunger, but for the children, there is a serious medical tragedy which is there. And I think, Ambassador, you can do some research and find out about the stunting in our country. It is quite high. Especially if you go in Western Province, Luapula, part of Copper Belt, Rufwanyama, there we've got a serious problem of stunting. And that's where the big tragedy is. So we have to come together and start having an honest conversation how we can debunk this problem, these challenges.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. No, thank you. As usual, thank you for your contributions, Andrew. Very in-depth. I will make some remarks.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you. I'm beginning to enjoy Andrew's contribution, and is right that Zambians own very little of their economy. I've been to South Africa and I've been to Ethiopia. The comparisons between South Africa and Ethiopia is appalling. The Ethiopians own the economy. In South Africa, of course, it's owned by a few. Just like here in Zambia, the economy is not owned by you and me. We are mere workers. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Mr. Mwanza, make your contribution, sir.
Yes, mine is just a question. I'm following your topic where we're discussing on the rise in the cost of living. Now, when you look at the councillors in our country, they are paid as low as something like 3,000 kwacha. Now, how do they survive? What is your comment?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I will answer that.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yes, this is Daniel from Garden, Lusaka.
Yes, Mr. Daniel from Lusaka. Make your contribution.
Yes, just from the previous caller. Yeah, so from the point of where he was talking about the nutritional diet for the young ones.
For our children.
That point he raised, it was very much important, and that is the thing that I'm seeing like this government is not looking into. And looking at some of us who stays in Muma compound, like Makanyama, Mumachan, we are seeing these children, how they are suffering, and we are seeing some of these people who are uneducated and those who are living that life, and they don't have someone who works at least in a company or in a situation where they can earn more amount of money that they can sustain their life of every day. So, when what am I trying? So,
good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Okay, we have Daniel from Garden. He agreed with Andrew. Andrew raises fundamental issues. I agree with you, Andrew, and I was giving an example of how the economy in Ethiopia is owned by Ethiopians. They will have 20-story buildings, 12-story buildings. And in South Africa, of course, the economy is in a few white privileged people. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yes, my brother from Solwezi. Kindly make your contributions.
I think these things because the government is not a listening government. I'll give an example from here in Solwezi. We used to buy a meter of maize around this time, harvesting time, at 2 kwacha and 5 kwacha respectively. Now it's at 20 kwacha and 25 kwacha. So what's more, when we reach December, January, it will be worse than that. So really, we are in a bad situation. The government needs to do something, needs to bring up things that can help even the least of our citizens, those who are not even working. I'm personally working from the mines and I'm getting 7,000. What more, a person who's in the streets who doesn't work, who's relying on selling from the streets. So really, there's much to be done by the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Yes, Kuchaisa.
Oh yes, Peter from Chaisa.
Yes, kuli ababenze batuma babiri abangani Daniel na Benangu baja pali bana bo eyo ninkani maningi nkani kuliyo manje sitizi bali kusogolo ma president kaya ngama yanganira bwanji okay kukambira che pali government ye liko manja pasikuti nikubazonda awe mukangana tikangana pali life y'abantu ebankala everyday abantu bafunika kudya noti atukamba no tinashita employ ma teachers tinashita employ aba still more sinatandize abantu bonse abo ni abo banatandiziwa banapunzira now aba bebanesi banapunzire babaganizira pochani because aba besi banapunzire bamene abo ndiye munachokera na mavoti ya mbili so manje babashitira pochani sembe at least sometimes bamabwerako bangena ma compound bayanga na bantu mwe bavutikira mwe bantu bavutika imwe bavutika abantu balira abantu sibakudya mwe bafunikira kudya bana umuchani bangoenda chabe badobera chabe Benangu bakudya chitu chitatraumatize sebenangu mwetingalira makomboni muno sikuti nchani awe bafunika bayanganirapo at least noti kuyamungana chebaja abantu niwopunzira bosi bonse bopunzira ndi si bonse sibakuti banakana school bakamba twaleta free education ebe ifunika muntu akuta aenda ku school noti muntu ati napasa free education muntu sanadi aenda ku school awe bayanganire kwa otherwise
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador.
Good evening.
This is, my name is David Moyo Wambuya, calling you from Mongo.
Oh, yes, what David kwa Mongo Mchwani?
Inayo.
Shangwe. Kindly make your contribution, my older brother.
Please. You see, the biggest problem which I always talk about is we should try and consider a lot of we must have a solution to our problems.
Yeah.
Zambians, and me, I'm a Zambian as well, we love admiring success without going to the root cause of that success. We like talking about China. I hear you talk about China a lot. But 20, 30, 50 years ago, not even 50, in 1970, under Chairman Mao, China had to go through a revolution, which you, the ambassador, know very well. The Chinese were meant to go into their land and tilt. The Chinese worked. It was mandatory for every Chinese to go into the production sector. All Chinese in villages were growing rice for the state, not rice for themselves, rice for the state. It was, every village was given a mandate to produce a certain amount of rice. That was under Chairman Mao. When they had the production, that's when they went into manufacturing, adding value addition. We Zambians like talking about adding value to what? Value addition. The president up to now likes talking about adding value. Adding value to what? Even if we bring in production, like someone talked about Western Province right now. Western Province has only 11 megawatts of electricity. Therefore, gives the entire Western Province 11 megawatts of electricity. The electricity we use in Western Province, whilst Manda in Lusaka uses 13 megawatts. In Western Province, the entire Western Province has 11 megawatts. So even if you talk about industry in Western Province, where is the electricity going to come from? These are the facts. You must look. Someone says, oh, under Mr. Lungu, under to give who? They said we are giving commercial farmers cashew to plant trees. As we speak now, there's not a single tree of cashew in Western Province. Who did they give the seedlings to? They said they're giving them to farmers. Which farmers? Western Province doesn't have even one. We've got only one commercial farm. Now it's Yoma, a South African guy, who's doing everything, who's doing marvelous things. He's applying ShopRite with almost everything in terms of fruit and vegetables. Only one commercial farmer. So $50 million was spent to non-existent farmers. That money up to now, no one is accounting for it because there's not even one tree of cash that you can point at from that $50 million. So we want to look at facts. The way we implement things is the wrong way. The Zambian people have to be helped to go into production. We've got so many youth who are doing nothing. The street vendors, what are they selling on the street? Have you made a research to say what these street vendors we are calling street vendors, what have they been trading in? Have they been selling vegetables? Have they been selling, what are they selling? Most of them are selling second-hand clothes from Europe. So what type of a nation are we becoming? Most of those street vendors we're talking about, the people in the streets, what were they selling? What type of goods were they selling? Are those goods produced in Zambia? Those are the questions we should ask.
No, thank you very much for David. Make your concluding remarks.
No, that's what I just wanted to say. Let's go back to the production part.
Yes.
That's all the things we're talking about.
Thank you very much. David is right. What do you add value to if you haven't produced? He's right. And how do you turn an agrarian economy to an industrial economy? Yes, David, I give example of China, Singapore, South Korea, and Malaysia, because we were richer than them just 50 years ago. Now they are first world countries. What did they do right? What did we do wrong? Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm calling from Lusaka, Emmentown.
Yes, sir. Would you care to give us your name?
I just wanted to make a contribution looking at, people who, there are some callers who've been calling and they are not really pointing out, like the other caller who's been, anyway, let me just leave it. But the situation on the ground is not good.
Yes.
A lot of people are suffering. The price of milling meal has gone up. There are no jobs. There's nothing new that this government has offered on the table. There are a lot of the marketeers. There's a crisis of the marketeers. And unfortunately, it takes somebody who's far away, like Tier 1, to identify some of these things. Some of the people here, they are not noticing that is what is going on. It has to take someone who is in Nigeria to identify the situation. To tell us that you guys are not okay there. But here we are here, some people are arguing. That things are okay on the ground. Yes, things are not okay. It has to take somebody who is far away to identify that there is a problem and you are going to crash and here is this. The price of milling meal, that is our staple food. If we start buying milling meal at 300, 290, 250, it will go up to 350.
Mm.
You know, people who are in offices like the previous scholars who were calling, I heard they're speaking good English and all that. But those people have got good jobs.
Mm.
They are ordinary citizens who are really suffering.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you very much, Mr. Piri. Anything else?
No, that's about it.
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Piri has summarized it very well. First, we need to remember that the country is poor. You know, our poverty levels are in excess of 62% of our country. Look at our job levels, especially for the formal sector. And I like what our colleague from Solwezi said. He says he has a job, he's a miner, and he gets 7,000 kwacha. That's a lot of money. But he says he barely can afford. He says, what about those that are not working, who are the majority? He says the UPND boast that they employed 30,000 teachers and 11,000 health workers. That just translates to 42,000 people. How many people are unemployed? About 7 million. You find that the 42,000 becomes a mere drop in the ocean. And there's Peter from Chaisa who has concurred with Andrew. And he says, they are stunted. What kind of a future are we growing if our children are seriously affected by lack of food? So there is extreme poverty in our country. And on top of it, of these poverty levels, then you have an issue. Just the last 2 years, the basic needs and nutrition basket has gone very high. It's now around above 9,000 kwacha. Look at the price of fuel. It has jumped from 17 kwacha to 25, 26 kwacha. Look at the price of millimil. From 110 kwacha to 120 kwacha. Now it's above 300 kwacha. Look at the price of cooking oil, sugar, salt. Look at all these prices. And for the first time, 10 non-government organizations have come to demand for answers. They've even proposed an Indawa that the President Hakainde Hichilema, should convene an economic Indawa. His economics is not working. Hear from others. My dear brother, welcome to the program. Your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Mr. Mama.
Good evening.
Yes, I would like to make a contribution.
Yes, sir. Your name, sir, and where you are calling us from?
My name is Jero. I'm calling from Solwezi.
Yes, Mr. Jelo from Solwezi. Make your contribution, my brother.
Yes, I'm actually trying to understand, looking from the fact that, first of all, we have a very high level of unemployment. Then you hear that, Kassenzeni gold mine is just being guarded because, we have a lot of youth who are unemployed and they're looking for employment. First and foremost, why can that be given to an investor or, if anything, to a rally, so that a lot of our youth are employed? And the second thing is that, looking at, Sojolites, we hear that there was a foreigner who was actually mining.
Yes.
So when the minister was actually, of course,
who's been fired? Yeah.
Fired, yes. The issue is that the people that he was actually working with, more especially, the same foreigner who was actually mentioned, what happened to that foreigner? Was he deported? Was he asked to stop? Because what we hear is that still mining operations are being done there in Morocco. So what will happen? The other point also is that this youth chairman, Liswaniso, honestly, how does one person
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I feel that, I think, the Zambia we know now is not the Zambia that we used to know, because there are a lot of, happenings that is not actually right, and we need to actually correct this, because, again, let me get you back to the issue of, agriculture also. Agriculture, Zambia is not to be the food, basket, we have a lot of hardworking, farmers in Zambia who produce a lot of maize, but now you find that, these farmers are being restricted by, the lack of, feed and stuff, they don't have fertilizer. Now, you hear that they are making blunders upon blunders, because last season, it has been a learning curve, we didn't have, enough, fertilizer. Hence, the production of, maize was very, very, very minimal. And now we hear that these people will be phased out, and instead they will introduce the loans. Now, these loans again, who's going to afford, because these people are actually meant for poor, farmers and suppliers. They were benefiting from seafood, and then they hear that they will be getting loans. Now, suppose we have unforeseen circumstances like, where they drown, how are they going to pay back?
Yeah.
So I don't know what, this government is actually doing. I think we really need to, I don't know how. People up there need to actually help the farmers. You need to help the youth. You need to help us as Zambians, because I'm foreseeing hunger come 2024,
Yeah.
My contribution.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Jello from Solwezi is very clear that we have high unemployment rate, and the casual approach by this government. Look at KCM Mopani, and he has cited Kasenseli Gold, where it's just being guarded. The Muombe mine, Sujilite mine in Chembe, which is just being guarded. He says there's no sense of agency, and he cites corruption and other things involving this one. So I'll answer to that. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Please mute your device.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Your name, sir?
Okay, this is Joe calling you from Avondale.
Yes, Joe from Avondale. Kindly make your contributions.
Yeah, so I think I've been following your conversation. I think I've taken note of what the man, Mr. David from Mongo, what Mr. David was saying.
Yeah.
I think we are missing it as a country, or maybe as a government, per se. Looking at it, we have had different presidents in Zambia, but Manawasa was named the best of all, as it is. You and I can agree on that, and we can differ in some terms, but he was named the best. Why? He followed the father. When you say he had the father, he had. In Demba, I understand your Demba. In Demba, they say, right? Can you buy a shoe or a trouser for your son where you don't have meal in your house? Is it possible? It's not possible. So you look at the basic things. What does the country need? What is the basic need of the communities? Here we are talking about job issues. We are talking about mines. How many people benefit from those mines? We are talking about basic things. We are talking about basic things. We are talking about roads. We are talking about we are talking about food in simple terms. So we talk about food. We want to have a cheap minimum. How are we going to have cheap minimum? Mr. Pepe has mentioned a very cardinal point, which is production. And when you talk about production, we want to have cheap fertilizer, which Manawasa have done through what? Subsidies. Then some people also, they were very wise, came in and said, no, subsidies are wasting government's money, but it was better for them to be getting that money into their pockets, which is taking us, our country, as into where we are right now. So I think it would be better. I know you people have got meetings with as politicians.
Yeah.
The best thing you can advise your friends, even as you sit, whether in parliament or where you're having coffee, advise them, let's give these people the basic needs. The rest we can get. It's fine. People stop complaining.
Thank you.
When we insist on talking about the mines, we talk about job issues, talk about expensive minimum. Yeah, we have those expensive things because the production has gone low. What is taking production to go down is the expense at which those commodities at 1,200 kwacha. You don't expect them to sell that bag of maize at 60 or 50 kwacha, no. At the end of it, if the bag of maize is going up, they expect minimum to go high as well. Yeah, so if we work much on production and the government invest in those two, let's say farming commodities as well as fuel, as you had mentioned earlier. Because we can't fertilize on our heads. We need fuel, we need cars, we need what to take that fertilizer to rural areas. So if those two can be subsidized, then you have a peaceful Zambia. People will be eating, their time is before they'll stop talking. Otherwise, when you start talking about mines, laws, there are no jobs, there are no what. Jobs will be there, but if someone is hungry, they'll still talk.
Yeah.
I submit, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much, Joe from Avondale. Yes, Joe is very clear that we should meet the basics before we even venture out into experiments. Our national reserves should be well stocked. We shouldn't have exported as much maize as we have. We've bungled the FISIP program. Even this year, FISIP program, we are now in August. The FISIP program, which was advertised in January, has not been publicly awarded. I know there are some for for the base of fertilizer to be manufactured locally, but the top dressing, that tender has been shuttling between State House and Ministry of Agriculture for the last 8 months. Again, there will be delays by the time the award is given and announcement is given. It may not come in time. Again, we are bungling the FISIP program. And then the announcement by the Minister, Honorable Mtolo Piri, who says, look, this FISIP program is going anyway, and the beneficiaries you've seen may not be there in the next 2 years. So they are reforming it, but they're reforming it to the interest of IMF. Because remember, one of the conditions IMF gave is remove subsidies on fuel, on electricity, and on FISIP. So whatever they will do is to reduce any subsidy on those. That's why price of electricity is very expensive, because it's one of the conditions of the IMF that the price should be high, that ZESCO should charge tariffs that are cost reflective. ZESCO has been awarded increment by ERB of 17% every year for the next 5 years. So electricity will remain very expensive. Fuel will remain very expensive. Fertilizer and the FISIP program is being collapsed to from 2.8% of our GDP to under 1%. Those were conditions of the IMF. Joe says, let me answer David. David says, I like referring to China, Singapore, South Korea, and Malaysia, and he's right. For me, these are good examples. Here are economies we're admiring now. China has become the second largest economy in the world. But look at its GDP per capita. In 1964, Zambia was a far richer country per GDP capita than China. So what did they do right and what did we do wrong? David raises a cardinal issue of the $50 million loan we got for cashew nut. And David, I'm sad to hear that, because you're aware that while I was permanent secretary for Western Province, I made the proposal, and together with Ministry of Finance, we submitted that loan application to the Africa Development Bank, because my understanding was that if cashew nuts fetch $10,000 a ton, far higher than our copper, why can't we invest in it, provide a good economy for our people in Western Province, but produce this high-value crop for export? Cashew nuts are usually used in planes or in very expensive hotel. It's a nut. Ifo tulie shine mbalala isha kuchipata abasungu abanine ndeke nabekala mu 6-7 star hotel before okulia cashew. And for me, every time I looked at the price of cashew, I was motivated. The first thing I did in 2013, I got a 10 million kwacha at the time, which was like 10 billion kwacha, to try to revive the association and the minimum production that was being done, and to begin planting. But we made this huge application of $50 million to the Africa Development Bank. Of course, by the time it was coming, I was now in South Africa, and I don't know how its implementation has been and how it was implemented, and if it has been implemented in the manner that I had envisioned it with the people of Western Province. Because in Western Province, there were trees that were planted in 1975 by Dr. Kaunda. So when I did a tour, I looked at the price of cashew nuts of $10,000 a ton, consistently so. I said, why can't we revive this industry? They even then gave me, that there were now new varieties, because the old ones, if you know, David, the old ones are very big tree like mango trees, but they said the new ones are very small. It's like the avocado ones. You don't have to have a huge 10-meter tree. You can just have even a 2-meter tree, but the production of avocado can be done similarly. We had to engage even experts from Mozambique who were trained in Brazil, and Brazil is one of their largest exports. And I was embarrassed when these two experts, we brought them in from Mozambique to work with our people from forestry and from agriculture. And when they were doing a report back, one of them said, Permanent Secretary, are you aware that I was trained in Zambia for cashew nuts? I came here in the 80s. And here are the people that we trained are now large exporters of cashew nuts. And they were now coming back to teach us things that we knew, So I agree with you, David. I'm very passionate about Western Province, and the $50 million is something when I come to Western Province, I would like to follow up and understand how the funds were disbursed and how the project is faring. And if it's not faring well, what happened? So there I'm interested. I'm sad to hear that Western Province receives 11 megawatts. That's unfair. I think we have 3,500 megawatts. We have surplus. We are exporting power to Botswana, to Namibia, to Tanzania, to Malawi, to DRC. Our provinces should have enough power, both for domestic and industrial use. So that's a matter. I will research on it, and we can understand how many provinces are receiving as little as 11 megawatts. And we are saying value addition. We are saying an industry per district. How will it happen if you have 11 megawatts per province? So this I would like to understand, and I'd like to research on it, David. And thank you for your contribution, my elder brother. I was reading the statement, get interested. Civil society is beginning to speak. It's just not CR1 who has called for the resignation, immediate resignation of the president. It's just not CR1 who has demanded that for the benefit of our country, that President Hakainde Hichilema must resign. Today, surprise, 10 non-governmental organizations came together and issued this very strong statement. And one of the issues they've proposed is that there should be an economic indaba. The Hakainde Hichilema Msokotwane Stumbeko economy is not working. Come and hear to all of us. Come and hear to all of us, civil society, the church, and our proposals as political parties, what should be done to our country, to our mineral resources. Your loyalty and attention you've given to IMF will not result in development of our country. So today, the Zambia Council for Social Development, NGOCC, Transparency International of Zambia, the Council for Christian Churches in Zambia, the Center for Trade Policy and Development, Chapter 1 Foundation, Bloggers of Zambia, Alliance for Community Action, Action Aid, issued this very strong statement. And they've demanded that government convenes an economic endeavor to understand. The statement is about the high cost of living and how our people just can't afford. The ill-timed actions like the chasing of our street vendors. We want a clean town, but with poor people dying out of hunger. Is that what we want? I think we want both. So take time and study that statement. There was another one issued by the CCZ, the Christian Council of Churches in Zambia, also a very strong statement. They've talked about the electoral process, that we need to clean up. We know what the issues are with our electoral process and why have we stalled. And why are we conducting these, we are recruiting voters, we are enlisting voters, but we haven't cleaned up our electoral laws and the contention and the dispute that surrounds it. I think civil society for the first time is beginning to see. I think they are welcome to begin to critique President Hakainde Hichilema. I think with the 2 years, the honeymoon is effectively over. President Hakainde Hichilema must be held accountable. As we begin to wind up our program, as usual, I will play the videos that we played at the beginning just to refresh you, and then we'll close the program. If there are any calls, maybe I can take the last 2 calls or so as we wait for the calls before we wind up the program. Thank you for your contributions and thank you for your support. We're discussing the rise in cost of living, the basic needs and nutrition basket that is above 9,000 consistently the whole of this year, the price of fuel, mealie meal, cooking oil, sugar, salt. These have caused civil unrest in Kenya and Nigeria. And civil society have joined us in our concerns around this issue. We've had a bad economy, no doubt about it. High debt, huge debt, local and international. We don't agree with the solutions that have been deployed so far of the IMF and relying heavily on foreign investment. These are solutions that will not walk us out of this crisis. Just last 2 calls before we go. Okay, so for all those that wish to call, you can just text. We may add your text later, or you can make your contribution underneath. It will show. Thank you very much for joining us on this program. I'll try to make them as regular as possible. We didn't have it Friday, and on Monday we couldn't have it for various reasons, but we had ours today. I'll try to have the one on Friday. It's very important that we get engaged in our discussion with our country. So may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you, and may he be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Sleep well. God bless you, and good night. I'll leave you with the videos that we played at the beginning. The President's visit, Siawan's views, and Honorable Minister Paul Kabuswe's report on the mines and the riots in Kabwe. Then we play my tune and we say good night. So God bless you. May the Lord bless you and protect you. We'll see you on Friday.
A toast of brotherhood and continued friendship between Zambia and Israel is what Israeli President Isaac Herzog proposed during a state banquet held in honor of President Hakainde Hichilema and his delegation. It was at this event where President Herzog announced intentions of increasing trade and business between his country and Zambia.
Zambia is a remarkable nation with stunning physical landscape, beautiful human landscape, as we heard from First Lady and the President. The eagerness to develop, grow and learn makes cooperation between our nations so natural. And of course it's about time that we increase the trade and business between Israel and Zambia, as Zambia is becoming the major hub of food security for entire Africa. Our recent deepening collaboration epitomizes the people-to-people creative connections that are driving innovation and making it a better world. There is so much that can become possible when we join hands in goodwill to improve life on Earth together.
President Herzog said President Hichilema's leadership has set him among the best performing presidents in the world.
I heard from the White House, are you meeting HH? He's the greatest guy around, and indeed he is.
President Hichilema, on the other hand, used the occasion to woo Israeli investors to consider investing in Zambia, especially in the agriculture sector.
Investment, relationships, mutual benefit for all of it. And for us now, we look at the size of this country, we've done salt. But there's land sample there's space where you can continue expanding, given your ingenuity of your people, technology, of course, the network of capital that you have across the world. So we would like to really invite the business community that is here, that our country is once again open for business. Come and do business with us, as the Sussmans did.
After all was said and done, it was time for the president to leave in readiness for more engagements the following day. President Hichilema was accompanied by First Lady Mutinta Hichilema. Kalan Muchima reporting for Zanis in Jerusalem, Israel.
Boindero de shem fta paine na papa tetu ba kula sapa. Yeah. Olo ba to ba ida moto kaka. Tafira shide nga bwino. Shit, sokone market. Yapia, mwe bantu yapia, mapranzi ya bantu yaona ikaye.
Street kosali po.
Ah, yeah. Tiagasi. Gamba kuwe.
Pimpa yenu.
Minister Paul Kabuswe says the race to have Mopani and Konkola copper mines become fully functional has not come to an end, as government is in the process of concluding the negotiations and will be making an announcement soon. Mr. Kabuswe, who addressed the media Wednesday morning, says the negotiations delayed to conclude because legal matters popped up during the negotiation process, but says the matter has been resolved and that negotiations will be concluded sooner than anticipated.
But believe you me, we are closer to closure than you think. And as the president said, certain legal issues cropped up which disturbed our timelines. There are certain things in the legal fraternity which you cannot block but allow time to pass. And we are to bite the bullet and allow time to pass and go beyond the first quarter. I want to assure the people of Zambia and the people of the Copper Belt.
Meanwhile, the minister has also revealed that the new mining policy has been released and that the government is in the process of setting up a minerals commission that will be monitoring mining activities in the country.
To be implemented. Why am I emphasizing the aspect of time? Because a lot of people have been saying, no, this government is just about rhetoric. They just talk. I don't know whether doing a policy is talking. Doing a policy is action. So we acted, we did a policy. From the policy, now we said we are implementing what the policy is saying. And number one priority, like I said, is the Minerals Commission, which we have done now.
Among other issues, the minister says government is going full throat in the mineral exploration and says 100 cooperatives have so far been formed and will be assisted with equipment for the use in mining explorations.
We are going full throttle exploration and mapping of this country, and these discussions are seriously underway. It requires time and it requires us to do the right thing. Cooperatives are in place. The Ministry of Mines is already procuring gold detectors and other equipment for these cooperatives to empower them. So you can see that we have a very clear path where we are going.
And when asked why the mining sector is